We're just planning what we're going to do today.
Yeah.
We're really on it. It's super on it. Anyways, sorry about the not having the video scheduled. We're going to blame Justin because he's been homesick. And that's his job, and we just didn't think about it. So anyways, we are here. We're ready to go. We knew what we were doing. You guys just didn't know what we were doing. So it's all good. Well, we got...
Do we know what we're doing? I guess we do.
We're going to try to know what we're doing.
Guys...
This is just part 2 of the Brickman, and I told Denny after we finish this, I was like, you know what? We're just going to keep this going, and this is just going to be every, 2 months, we'll just throw in a Brickman video, and Denny and I will just sit here and have our own little chat cast. We're going to do some vlogging while building Mr. Brickman.
Yeah.
So...
Stitch up body parts.
Yeah. We're playing Frankenstein here. That's what we're going to do. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I say a lot of fun, just casually. In any case, Denny fixed our little arms up. We had our insides backwards.
Well, across his shoulder. That's what would have been backwards.
Gotcha. Yeah. So Denny got these guys all fixed up this morning. We have a right and a left, so we did that. That worked.
Luckily, we did that.
And so today we're going to start working on his hands, and then I'm just going to continue to play 20 questions with Denny. So it's going to be great fun. Tony, it's a little warm in here.
It is a little warm.
I'm always really cold over there in the corner because the air conditioner is right above my head, and I put a jacket on. But then I come over to this side of the room where an air conditioner is not right over my head, and I have a million lights up here, and suddenly it's pretty warm.
Yeah. I'm warm.
Yeah.
I'm plenty warm.
So let's see here.
We need some thread and needles.
Yeah, why don't you get us set up? Here's a needle. Denny just got lost over there today.
Oh, I did.
It was 2 minutes till, and I was like, hey, are you gonna come to the show? Are you gonna come hang out with us? I'm pretty sure we need to sew his wrist onto this little circle. And then that will create his hand because it's going to do that. So I bet this goes on the inside. So I bet the seam here goes on the inside of the wrist like this. And that'll make it do that. And then we'll have to mold our little hands after we glue them up.
The picture, how did they stitch that on?
Look, they have it, they have it like this. Just across like we did that one. And you stitch it on the hand and then you glue it up. We should get that done. How's everybody doing out there today? It is raining here today. It is a nice spring rain that we've got going on out there.
And we've needed it terribly.
But it is August. And typically I feel like we don't get a lot of rain in August.
No, typically we don't.
You know what? I bet I can get this one seam done with this one little loop of thread here. Well, Denny.
I've got a little loop of thread.
Me too. Okay,
Did
perfect.
I bring scissors?
No, but I
thought I did.
You have snips.
All right. Okay. I'm using this.
Yep. No, this first.
This first.
Yeah, I feel like we're going
to... And just lace it together like this.
Yeah. And then we'll put them on... We'll put them on the hands.
Okay.
Okay.
Here we go. Away we go. Wasn't it Jackie Gleason that said that?
Anybody? Did Jackie Gleason say that? I don't even know who Jackie Gleason is, so...
Are you sure?
No, I'm not sure. Who is it?
Jack Gleason. Well, yeah, I guess he was way before your time. I have trouble with that.
I know who Lawrence Welk is.
Okay, Lawrence Welk knew Jackie Gleason, I bet.
Perfect. That whole, Frank Sinatra, Lawrence Welk era.
Yeah.
They were buddies.
The 50s.
I like that.
60s, back in early television.
Yeah.
That really pisses me off to be from that area.
To the
I'm
Moon,
not supposed
Liz.
to be that old, but I am.
Is that a song? To the Moon? Is that the song?
I don't know. Oh yeah.
Okay. I do know a lot of old things because my parents are your age, actually.
I feel so bad for them.
You're doing pretty good. And so I did Lawrence Welk was my mom's. That was like her favorite TV show. We watched that all the time. And
The Lennon sisters. Do you remember them from the Lawrence Welk?
mm-hmm. Mostly, she really loved the big band stuff. She was in love with Natalie Cole and Nat King Cole, and we would just listen to their the duet album that Natalie did after her father passed away. Just all that kind of stuff. We did a lot of that. Well, Denny, I was going to ask you about some leather stuff, unless we just want to keep talking about music.
Ask me about leather stuff. I know a little more about it than music.
Yeah, that's what there was. So on Tuesday nights, I go to the nursing home where my dad is, and I call it, I walk him. I walk my dog because it's pretty close to my house. And there's that where it's the trail that I walk my dog on, the Greenway Trail. I can get from the nursing home. There's a little walkway that goes down to the trail, so I can walk him down the trail.
All right.
Anyways, in his wheelchair. And so every Tuesday night I go and I do that. And last night we got back to the nursing home and there was some truck sitting out front that had, I don't know, just some random, it looked like a moving truck, and it said some, I don't know, some company name on the side. And I was like, oh, I wonder what they do, what are they doing here? And my dad was like, well, I don't know. I was like, me neither. And I told him, I was like, I thought you knew everything. And he just kind of laughed and he's like, oh no. And I was like, yeah, I don't know everything either. But I was like, you can ask me about some leather stuff. And I was like, I got some pretty good answers.
You got some answers there.
The Hustler Pool movie. Sheriff on Smokey and the Bandit. Oh! Yeah. Why didn't you just say I'm sorry, I just totally stabbed you with a needle. I know who that is.
Okay.
Thanks, I got it.
Yeah, but he had his own television show.
Okay.
Oh gosh, I forget the other people that were on it. His wife. Anyway, at the very beginning, he would say, and away we go. And it would go like this. Here we go.
What's Bang Zoom? Is that another thing that he said? There's a lot of people that said Bang Zoom. Well, I guess there's 2 people that said Bang Zoom. Actually, the fine folks from Creative All did contact me, and they sent the video instruction for this it's just not public anymore on YouTube, and so they sent it over to me so that way, if and when I do have questions, I can answer them about how this thing goes together. So, well, in any case, Denny, I thought that I might ask you about. So I'm just a little bit because the hand needs to fold like this, right? But the seam is coming up on the top, and so that doesn't make sense.
It looks like the seam is right there.
I know, but that doesn't make sense for how the hand needs to fold. The hand curves in, and I would assume that, you would do this for the curve.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to hurt anything.
I don't either.
Okay, that's what we're going to do.
So we'll just go.
Yeah.
All right.
So, and I don't think this part really matters because we can flip it one way or the other once we actually start going.
Okay, so what was your question?
Heath, a Brickman is not the L word that we're not going to say. It's this guy. Oh, here. Hello. You guys see all these really sweet rugs that we have out here? We'll talk about those later. what I was going to ask you is to tell us about your very first saddle build that you did all on your own.
Okay. I built a saddle after I bought the shop from old Bob.
What year was this?
This was in about 82 or 3.
Okay.
I believe 1982 or 3.
Not 1882 or 3?
No.
Okay, you're not that
quite
old.
far.
Okay. Let's just clarify.
Let's see. I had my little shop. I moved it from where Bob's shop was, but he had another place downtown. Bob took complete advantage of me, by the way.
Did he?
But anyway, so I moved downtown and I was making a bunch of reins. I had a bunch of stock and stuff that I'd gotten from him, so I had my shop fairly well set up. But I was making reins and bridles and stuff, and this guy that my wife and I knew came in and said, "Denny, I want you to build me a saddle." I thought, huh.
And at this point, I assume that maybe you had worked on some saddles, some parts and pieces.
I had built some saddles.
Okay.
But they were Bob called them pattern saddles because they were off of a pattern that he had made from on some rawhide trees. But I had never actually built a saddle on my own from start to finish without him there as guidance.
Gotcha. Okay.
But Bob wanted a saddle, so Bob got a saddle made, and he wanted a rawhide wrapped horn. And that's what everybody called latigo. They called it rawhide. Or alum-tan leather is actually what a lot of people used to use. And they called it rawhide because it was pretty stiff, you know.
Okay.
But I said, Bob, I don't think you want rawhide. And he said, oh, I want rawhide. So.
And at this point, were you guys on the same page as what rawhide was?
No, I tried to tell him.
Okay.
But he said, no. He said, rawhide's what I want. So by golly, rawhide was what he got. And I built him a pretty good saddle. I was pretty proud of it, but it had that rawhide wrapped horn. And he got it, and he was a team roper. And he went team roping the first night that he had that saddle. And rawhide is slick, and when you dally, which is a wrap around the saddle horn, when you dally, there's nothing to hold it. It just when the old cow is running away from you, it just takes your rope and goes around the horn. And he cut his little finger off.
Oh, goodness.
And he told me about that. And I said, see? And I told you.
Told you didn't want rawhide.
And he said, we probably ought to change that. So the first saddle that I built, I had to change the horn all around. But that's all right, because the saddle came out pretty good. And away we went after that.
How are you sewing this thing on?
I don't know.
Oh, good. Me neither. Perfect.
But I started, from then, for a saddle shop, most of the time, saddles are not your bread and butter. New saddles, custom saddles. They are really fun to build, but you don't make very much money at it because they're very labor intensive. So I built a few saddles. That first year, I think I built 5 or 6 saddles. And but I figured out pretty quick that wasn't where I was going to make a living. So I started concentrating on repair work, and that was definitely my bread and butter from then on. And I built about probably a dozen saddles a year from then on.
Yeah.
But that was just icing on the cake,
Something that was actually kind of fun to make.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed building saddles, and I still would build saddles, but I wouldn't be able to make a living at it. There's a lot of famous saddle makers.
Mm-hmm.
But they paid a lot of dues before they got famous. Probably starved quite often.
Well, Well, so you really just glossed over that whole saddle part, Denny.
I did?
Yeah. So tell us about the saddle.
Oh, the saddle.
Yeah.
The saddle was on, it was on an improved association tree.
Are they still around?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. An association is
How many different tree makers are there?
how far can you count?
Really?
Yeah. And that's something, people.
Because I feel like I've only heard of like two
oh, you're
brands.
doing something that's a lost art. There are probably more saddle makers, more saddle equipment makers, more leather companies, more leather people than there ever have been in the history of the universe.
Yeah.
Right now. So it's not a lost
Well,
art.
there's more people than have ever been in the
That's
history of the
right.
universe right now.
That's right. And, people that say that, they don't know. They just don't have any idea. You can walk down the street as a leather craftsman, and most of the people you see don't have any idea what leather crafting is about.
Yeah.
But then you come into our store, and everyone that comes in here is a leather craftsman of sort.
Yeah. All right. So you built you used an
association tree, modified association.
What does modified mean? You modified it?
Well, it's just what they called the tree. There are as many different saddle trees as there are saddle makers and people.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own saddle tree, it seems like, named after them. Every rodeo star, and that's what everybody wants, is whoever's winning the most money at the rodeos, they want a saddle like theirs.
That's funny. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, I built that on an association tree, and it was a fairly plain saddle. I think I had just a bead line around all the borders, and that's the only decoration it had on it. And it's really hard to build a plain saddle and keep from marking it all up.
I bet.
But it came out well. I don't know what to say about it other than it had that rawhide horn, wrapped horn, and Bob.
Cut his finger off, poor Bob.
Poor Bob. Yeah.
I don't know if you beat Kevin's stories from last week, but but I mean, Kevin didn't cut anybody's fingers off. He just shoved a pencil up somebody's butt. So
I had one of those stories too, but I'm not going to tell it.
Denny says, I know where that fella still is, and he'll come for me if I tell that story.
No, this was a girl.
Oh, yeah.
It involved a dissecting needle.
A dissecting needle?
Yeah, it was in biology. We were doing frogs at the time. Yeah, I'm completely out of sorts here. I'm going to have to start over.
Can't be out of sorts on your hands.
Her name was Kathy Gasser.
We're going to get the story.
You're going to get the story. Kathy Gasser. And she was one of those girls that, I don't know, she was just easy to
torment,
yeah. But she also had a temper.
That's probably why she was easy to torment.
A dissecting needle is just a needle about this long with a wooden handle on it that you hold the little frog's guts open when you're dissecting, right? And Kathy Gasser walked by me at the wrong time. And she, our biology teacher, crossed this dissecting needle.
Woo! She had an arm on her.
And yes, she did. Amongst other things. But I told her I was tremendously sorry after that. And I didn't do it again. She taught me a good lesson. But I don't know. The dissecting needle, it had been in formaldehyde. I don't know if she died from it or not. I hope not.
I don't know if she died from it. Yeah, I hope not either. That'd be bad.
Okay. Let me start over again here. I guess I'll start from the bottom.
think I'm gonna have to. This curves quite a bit. This is a lot shorter on the inside than it is on the outside.
Holes that we got. 1, 2.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to glue this. I think I'm just gonna have to stitch it. Well, Denny, so maybe remember. I mean, and I don't have a saddle in here for you to point to, and we're just hand sewing. But remember a while ago when I asked you to talk to the shop about saddles, and you kind of went over it? Why don't we just? I mean, it's been a while. There's a lot of people like myself that don't know much about saddles. We didn't grow up in that life. We have not built one. But you just kind of, you took us through the different parts, how much leather it might take, some of the different characteristics of different parts. And I know that you know saddles like better than the back of your hand, probably.
Probably better than I know how to stitch this Brickman. Okay.
It is shorter on the inside. This is not the TARDIS. It's not bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. So just for those of us out here that don't really know a lot that saddles, why don't just...
Okay, a saddle
just
consists of a few parts. The very front of it, the part that is right in front of you when you're sitting in a saddle is called, an English term for it would be the pommel. The Western term for it would be the fork or the swell.
Before we go any further, can we talk about the English versus the Western? Do you know a lot about the transition?
No, I don't know very much about English saddles. And I can't say I never wanted to know much, but I didn't ever pursue it very much.
Yeah.
But an English saddle is sort of built from the inside out.
Okay.
Everything is inside out, and a Western saddle is built from the outside in. Of course, you start from the inside, but everything is stitched right side out. And an English saddle, a lot of it is stitched inside out and then turned.
It's a lot smaller and sleeker and cleaner.
And an English saddle more or less sits on top of a horse's back. There is a tree to it that goes over on each side of the horse's withers, but it doesn't go down very far. Western saddle actually goes down over the withers, and so you have to, as far as the saddle fit, you have to be a little more particular about it. There are different widths up there under the gullet of the saddle, which is the under part of the swell or the pommel. There is different widths there, and the angle of the bars are different.
Yeah.
You have a semi-quarter horse, a quarter horse, and a full quarter horse, and all points in between. When you order a saddle tree, you can order any dimensions you want. And that's what's confusing to a lot of people to say, I want a horse or a saddle that fits this horse. And so you say, ma'am or sir, if you build a saddle for that particular horse, when it dies, you're going to have to bury the saddle with it. So you're better off building a saddle that will fit an average type horse, unless you have something specific in mind.
Right. Well, and also whenever I was in Sheridan this past year, I was sitting there talking to just the two most interesting people I feel like I've ever come across. Bob Park's wife, and that little old man from Peak Saddlery.
I don't think I know him. I remember you talking about him.
I feel like he was like Charlie something. Anybody know who Peak Saddlery? Wiry little guy. Anyways, their knowledge of horses just blew my mind. In any case, they were talking about he was talking about he had to build a saddle for this lady one time. She was a big lady with a big horse. Big lady. And he was like, I think he had a custom tree, and that tree could not have been any longer, otherwise it would not have fit on the horse. Those were two just very, like, this lady is never going to ride another horse. Or if she does,
too big for another horse.
Yeah.
She's going to have to build a special horse.
Mm-hmm.
Build a horse to ride.
Yeah, it was very interesting. But she, like, her and this horse, they figured it out together. Whatever it was. Anyways, you go ahead. So.
Okay, I forgot where I was. But, okay. Anyway, you've got that part, the swell of the saddle. And when, by the way, when you order a saddle and someone says, what tree do you want? And you say, I want a modified association tree.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't cover anything except the shape of that swell.
Okay.
That's the only thing that has anything to do with is the shape of that swell. Because the next question they will ask is, okay, how wide of a tree do you want? You know, what kind of horses do you ride?
Okay.
And if they tell you, say, I ride all modern type quarter horses, you know, those are a fairly broad back, you know, they used to be kind of mutton withered, which meant they didn't have a very high wither. They were pretty flat in the front.
Okay.
So you build a little wider tree that'll sit down a little bit further on them. And also the bars of the tree will spread out, be a little bit flatter. You know, if they say I ride a thoroughbred horse or an English warm blood, they're real tall, you know, fairly narrow withered, but fairly high withered horses. So you build a tree that's got a narrower gullet and a narrower and a taller gullet for them. You know, there's a lot of things that come into play. But anyway, after that swell, the next part of the saddle would be the seat. And so you say, how long of a seat do you want?
15 and a half.
Okay. So from the base of the horn, which is right where the horn comes out of the swell, from that point to the cantle, which is the back of the saddle, you want to measure 15 and a half inches finished.
Mm-hmm.
So you order your tree, say 15 and 3/4 or 16 inches, because your leather is going to take up a little bit of space. Okay, after the seat, you'll say, okay,
I feel like we're tailoring a suit.
we are.
Yeah, pretty much.
We are. After the seat, you say, okay, how tall do you want the cantle? The cantle is the back of the saddle, the part that fits right behind the small of your back.
Mm-hmm.
And if they say, I want a 4-inch cantle, it will be 4 inches from the bar of the saddle, which we will cover here in a minute, to the top of the cantle. And 3.5 or 2.5 or whatever. Then you say, okay, how deep do you want the dish in that cantle?
Good gracious.
Yes, because they are dished out, so they can either have generally 1.25 inches or 1.5 inch dish is average.
Okay.
Some people want a 2-inch dish because they think it needs to be real deep. Some people want a 1-inch dish, which is real flat. But you have all those choices. But okay, after that, let me see what comes next. Okay, how tall are you? How long of an inseam do you have from the floor to your crotch?
Mm-hmm.
Because that'll determine how long you want the fenders and the stirrup leathers. Then you ask them, okay, what kind of a stirrup do you want on it? So they tell you either they've got a Visalia, an oxbow, a bell bottom, a Moran.
Bell bottom.
A lot of different, bell bottoms are real popular.
Of course they are, as they should be.
They are. But anyway, and then how wide a stirrup? Are you a hunter? Do you ride in the wintertime with overshoes on? So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times they'll get what they call an overshoe stirrup, which is extra wide, so you can get that big clumsy boot in there. And when the horse bucks you off, it drags you all over the mountain and ping-pongs you off the tree.
Sweet.
Let's see.
Good gracious! Is there like an order form that
Yes.
that like you can find online that like I need to download this order form and then I need to figure out all of this information and then I can like call my saddle
Probably
maker?
most saddle makers, if they're computer literate, will send you an order form, that you can fill out, or they will have.
This is like doing your taxes.
Yeah, it's pretty. Because you figure nowadays, average base price for a saddle is probably between $4,000 and $6,000, depending on who you get it from.
Yeah.
That's for a plain saddle. So you want things the way you want them.
Yeah. That doesn't even seem like enough for all that.
It's not. That's why making saddles is not a money making proposition for most saddle makers.
So somebody asked about eating horse. I have never eaten horse. I don't know if you can even get it in the States. I feel like
I'm sure you could.
you just have to find the right place. Do we have any Canadians out there or French?
That's what I was
French
saying.
people. Are there any French people in our audience that could comment on that? Because I don't know. I feel like it would be tough.
It's
Yeah, then you go-
it supposedly is very good, from everything I've heard.
You got English saddles, you got Western. We didn't even talk about trick saddles.
Well, most
Talking
trick
about-
saddles are Western type saddles. Yeah,
Built off of I guess it's a trick tree, but
yeah.
you're talking 3,500
Yeah.
then. All sorts of strips and straps to go along with it.
Yeah.
That's about
We do have a
$250
Canadian in the house.
Yeah, but he's in Florida.
I assume at
Florida
some point he
Canadian.
lived in Canada. He said you used to be able to get it on native reserves.
Well, the main thing in the United States that I don't know about now, but for a while there was no place you could have a horse slaughtered.
Right, it was illegal, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's when the horse market went to pot for quite a while.
Yeah.
Because it's sad to say, but there are a lot of horses. They're better off if you put them down.
Right.
Crippled horses, old horses, rather than watch them in a field suffer or get old and they can't eat anymore. And, but
Yeah, that's no good.
yeah. So there's a place for those slaughterhouses, but we don't have them in the U.S. anymore.
Well, that was actually an interesting thing that like I learned, when I started working here and I learned about elephant leather. Like that was something, you kind of start looking at in Africa and Zimbabwe is where a lot of the leather comes from. They have national programs where the safaris are ran by the country, and there is wildlife management, just like we manage wildlife here in the United States. They have wildlife management for elephant populations and things they have to find a balance between the farmers and the elephants. Elephants are
hard on their crops.
the elephant. Yeah, it doesn't matter what fence you put up.
Yeah.
The elephant doesn't care. It's not interested in your fences, and so they have to find a thing. And one thing that was really interesting that I learned is when an elephant, because they can live for so long, they'll grind over the course of their life. They will grind their teeth down to where they no longer have teeth. And then a lot of times, like an old elephant will actually die of starvation because they can't eat anymore because they can no longer process their food because they're herbivores, so they're always eating stuff and they're grinding those leaves and everything is they're grinding it up into mulch in their mouth.
And dirt.
Yeah. And so that was something that was really interesting is like an old elephant. If it's dying of natural causes in old age, it's most likely dying of starvation because it can no longer process food. And so those wildlife management officers will, so they'll go out and they'll find the elephants who are in that state of life.
Yeah, and it's not something that they look for and want to do, but it's something that needs to be done for the animal itself.
Yeah.
I'm having a really rough time here. me and Brickman aren't getting along well.
Haven't talked about blazing saddles.
Blazing
I
Saddles.
got it on DVD.
Oh, so Steve says, I once rode a big white horse that reared up on me. I would have been thrown if it wasn't for the high ridge deep seat saddle that I borrowed.
Yep.
Keep seeing your seat. I did not like horse. It was fairly sinewy. Yeah, that's how somebody said that they had some beef jerky. They had some horse jerky. Which to me, like, that makes sense because you cook it for a really long time, and like jerky in itself, it's kind of tough and sinewy, and you just kind of tear it apart. So maybe that would be fine. Let's see here. What else about a saddle? So you have to fill out the 5 pages of questionnaire.
Okay. Okay, and when you're building a saddle, you start with the gullet, which is the underside of the swell. You cover it. After you've covered the gullet, then you can start building your ground seat, which is a Western saddle has 2 bars on each side, and it's just open down the middle between the cantle and the swell. So you have to build some different plies of leather over there to actually, that shapes your seat, what you sit on, the way the saddle feels to you. So you build that, and it generally starts with a piece of tin, piece of galvanized metal,
Okay.
which is called a strainer.
A strainer.
A seat strainer, yes. You
Is it perforated?
No, but it's got holes for the no. It's not. I get it.
Can I drain my pasta in there?
You could. You might drain more than that. But it has holes all around to drive nails into the tree.
Okay, okay.
So you nail it on the tree. You've covered the underside of it with a piece of real thin leather too, just for looks. That's the only thing that does, it just to keep you from seeing a piece of metal. But you nail that on. Then you put a small piece of leather up towards the front and skive down the edges. Then you put a little bigger piece of leather on top of that goes a little bit further and skive down the edges and maybe shape the top of it a little bit. Then you put another piece on, and that's generally the last piece that I put on unless you're building something special. If someone wants a real high front or a real flat seat, that will determine how much you put on there. But all that, you shape all that and skive it all down, smooth it all out so it goes, you don't have a bunch of lumps under you. You want it to be real nice and smooth. And shape the ground seat like that. After you put the ground seat in, then you can put your rigging on, which it either consists of a set of D-rings for the front. If it's a single rig saddle, that's all you have, 2 D-rings on the front. And that's what your cinch and your latigo's attached to. If it's a double rig saddle, you put a set of rings at the back of the saddle behind the cantle. There are different kinds of rigging. There's a flat plate rigging, which is just a big piece of leather with those rings or plates or whatever on there.
Yeah.
Or
It's a lot of options.
Or an in-skirt rigging, which the rigging is actually in the skirt. See, and this is all on that list that you've got to fill out. And then you've got to determine where you want it. If you want a full rigging, a 7/8, 3/4, 15/16. Some people get real particular.
15/16.
Oh yeah, they'll tell you exactly what they want. You come as close as you can. But okay, so after the rigging's on, then you can. The
rigging is like all the hookups that hold the thing on the saddle.
That's
or on the horse.
The first part of structure that you put on the saddle.
Okay.
The first thing that has any structural integrity to it is the rigging. The rest of it is all just for show so far.
Yeah.
The tree, of course, that's your foundation. But after you put the rigging on, then you can fit your skirts, which are the big square part that you see underneath the saddle that has sheepskin or whatever.
Okay.
And after you fit that, you turn the saddle upside down, put it on there with those skirts wet, and you block around the outside edge of the bar.
You block around?
Yes, you shape that edge. You actually mold that the skirts onto the bar of the saddle. That way, the saddle, when you cinch the saddle down on the horse, it actually rides on the bars of the saddle rather than up on those skirts, which are flexible.
Okay.
So after you've blocked the skirts in, you let those dry. Then you can build your back jockeys. Some people call it a back housing, which is the part that goes over the bar on the skirt at the back of the saddle.
Mm-hmm. There's usually the two pieces that come together, and then they have the little guy in the middle that stitches them together.
Yeah, frog.
The frog. See, he's a little guy.
A little frog guy. Or you can lace them together at the back too. But most people put a frog on. But after you've got your back jockeys fit and your fork covered, the swell is covered. Oh, I forgot all about the horn.
Uh-oh.
You got to do the horn before you put your ground seat in, because you can't get to it with the ground seat on.
Gotcha.
But after you've covered your horn, you do the ground seat, the skirts, and the back jockeys. Right?
With the frog.
This was just my method. A lot of times I'll forget stuff just like I just did. But after, let's see, where am I? Okay, I've just fit the back jockeys.
Yeah.
Then I can actually fit the seat.
Okay.
Which is a big piece of leather, and if you're building a pattern saddle, you can cut that piece of leather exact. But pattern saddles never go together very well. So a custom saddle will always be hand fit. The seat, you gotta find the point of the cantle on each side. And the seat has a little button, a little pair of little ears that go behind the cantle, and then you got to cut and make sure you have the right shape to the seat. To the seat jockeys is the part that's right under your thigh.
Okay.
And you want a nice flowing, pretty line there. And then the front jockeys are the part that are right at the front of the saddle on top of the skirt. This is all part of the seat, but those are the different parts. And then your handhold, which is the little part that you can grab the saddle and carry it around with.
And for all of this building, you're layering leather on and then shaving it, correct?
Just the ground seat is the only part that you really shave.
Okay.
You need to skive some parts, to make them so that it doesn't just go lump. But the main part that you shape is the ground seat.
Okay.
So after you've got your seat fit and everything is right, then you lay it out and let it dry flat. And then you can bevel your edges and smooth all those out. Or tool it if you're going to tool it. Then after that,
so you just cut a block of leather.
Cut a block.
You wet it, and then you start just smushing it around.
You wet it, and then you set it on top of the saddle itself and start kind of mashing things down.
You start worrying it.
Worrying it, yeah. And you can use a bouncer.
A bouncer.
A bouncer.
We got ticklers and bouncers.
You got ticklers. Yeah, you use tickler a lot. Yeah.
Don't I have a bouncer here?
Is it the doorknob?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of people use a wooden bouncer, but the porcelain doorknob really works good.
Porcelain doorknob bouncer, guys.
Yeah, because you can use that. You can rub it on the leather and it's smooth.
That's what Marvin gave me.
Yeah, that's a bouncer.
There's a bouncer.
Yeah.
Who knew?
And see, and you can just use that. You can set it on the inside of the seat and rub around. And it doesn't, because it's perfectly smooth, because it's porcelain, and it doesn't leave marks on it, But anyway.
And so you get it all shaped, and then I assume that you go through and do you cut it out?
Yes, you cut it one little part at a time.
Okay.
You find those two parts at the back of the cantle.
Mm-hmm.
And
how big of a piece of leather do you start with when you're doing this? Like the whole bend?
Yeah, the butt. It's probably 2.5 feet wide, 2.5 feet long. Or
as big of a piece as you can cut off the butt of that cow.
Yeah, you just want to make sure you have enough. I had what they call a set of ballpark patterns, which I used. Mm-hmm. For a bigger saddle, like for that woman, that you were talking
You
about.
had a big
You
ballpark.
might have to, you might have to
Ballpark
build a
patterns.
bigger stadium, you know. But but after you've got everything fit on that saddle, all your cuts made and everything's symmetrical, and you cut it out perfectly, lay it out, let it dry flat. Then after it's dry and you've done all your tooling and beveled all your edges and burnished everything, then you wet up just the center part of that seat.
Mm-hmm.
You get it wet, because if you wet the whole thing, if you wet the whole seat again, when you pull it down, which is you've got a big strap that you put across it when you put it back on the saddle, and use a drawdown stand, and that's why it's called drawdown stand, because you've got a foot lever and you pull that strap down tight and it pulls that seat down and makes it take a shape across there. But if you've wet the whole thing, it'll take every little divot there where your stirrup leather slots and all that is, which I didn't cover.
That's all right.
But that's why you just wet the center of the seat,
Okay.
and because that's the only part you want to shape anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it you want to stay fairly flat. So you draw that down, make sure everything's nice, let it dry overnight or 2 days or whatever. Then you can pull your drawdown strap off, and you can actually glue the seat down. And when you glue it down, you just glue that part that you wet. That's the only part that you glue. They used to use dexatrine paste, which is, it's kind of like wallpaper paste. It's kind of like, it's made with dextrine, which I'm not sure what that is, but it's just a water-based paste. But it gets really hard when it dries, just like rock candy, you know. So you just slather the top of that seat with that stuff, and when you draw that seat down, that stuff will fill in all the little divots and everything, and when it dries, it's just hard as a rock. And your seat is on there hard as a rock.
Yeah, that doesn't sound comfortable.
Oh, it is.
Oh, okay.
It is. You want it to be hard, and most people, cowboys will almost always order a hard seat. They won't order a padded seat.
This is also an option.
Which is an option, yes.
Hard seat, padded seat.
Padded seat, bicycle seat, or inlaid seat.
Mm-hmm.
Some people call it a bicycle seat, or a full padded seat, or a quilted seat, which has all kind of fancy little boot top type stitching in it.
Or a fancy inlay seat.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can get a gator seat.
Oh,
I've seen those.
Yeah. You don't want the hornback gator.
No, you want gator belly.
Or ostrich, they
Here's
use a lot of that.
Here's a quilted type seat that has padding.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess I should. I don't know if I got it. This is that Circle Y. I don't know. Can you see that? I can't see the screen to show you.
Yeah.
That's like a boot top.
Yeah. And I've seen saddle makers actually they'd fit their quilt before they stitched it and then take it to a boot maker and have them do 5 or 6 lines. Different colors and all that.
That's fun. That's a good idea.
Really cool.
I was gonna say, I don't feel like that's not a saddle maker's forte. So they're gonna go find a friend.
For one thing, you need a flatbed machine or a lightweight machine to do that.
Yeah.
And for another thing,
because they don't make one machine that fits all.
That's right. And when those boot makers, when they're doing boot tops, a lot of them have a computerized deal that'll stitch 5 or 6 or 10 lines of stitching at one time, the same pattern. And
it's cool.
Really, really cool. Yeah. But anyway, after you've got your seat glued in, then you can attach your skirts. If you're having saddle strings on it, you've got to drill holes all the way through the back jockey, the tree, and then the skirt.
You pray nothing messes up.
Just get it in the right spot. That's all you need to do. But you drill your tree, and if you're having strings, I always put the strings through the skirt first, and then put the skirt onto the saddle. So you've got to thread your strings through the tree and through the back jockey and all that.
What do you use to do that? Like a fishing hook?
You can make something, but
Captain's hook?
well, your saddle strings have a long taper on the end. You cut a long taper.
How big of a hole do you drill?
Generally, I drilled like 7/16.
Okay.
If you're using a 1/2 inch string, generally 1/2 inch strings are a bit shy of 1/2 inch.
Right.
And you don't want your holes overly big, but you want them snug. When you pull that string through, you want it to hold. You don't want it to be loose. But after you've put everything together, then you get to put all your bleed knots in, which if
This is my favorite.
if you're helping me, you would do the bleed knots.
Be the only thing that I do.
And of course, after you get it all put together, then you pull the fenders out as far as you can, dip them in a bucket of water, and pull them back up, put the buckles on, put the stirrups on, and turn them, put a stick through them, mash it down to your draw down stand, and that shapes the stirrup leathers.
Yeah.
If you don't, the stirrups are...
Right. Huge panels.
Yeah. They're parallel to your saddle, and you want them sticking out where you can just stick your foot in it.
I bet that's kind of an awkward job. Just like trying to get those stirrups or the fenders wet so that you can.
Well, you just, like I said, you just pull them back out of the saddle as far as you can and still reach the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Because your stirrup leather goes across the bar. So as long as you can still get a hold of it and thread it back through.
He wants to know when you do the zipper part.
That's when you get on the first time, Dean. That's when I attach the zipper.
They'll just zip you right in.
But then after you've got everything put together, you can oil the saddle.
When do you wrap the horn?
Before you cover the swell or the fork. If you're doing a dally wrap on it, like that rawhide wrap that Bob wanted to cut your fingers off, you can do it at the very end.
Okay.
At the very end.
Because you can replace it. Like that's something that you.
Yeah, and a roper will end up burning through. If they wrap their horn with rubber, they'll burn through the rubber eventually, and then they'll burn through the leather, and then bring it to me.
And I'll repair it for you.
Yeah.
Then he says, and I'll make some money.
Liz, do you think that maybe next time that we do this video, we can ask a question that Denny can answer and stitch at the same time?
We can try.
Okay.
We need to do something besides these hands. We'll have to do these hands some other time because I feel like I need to look at how they sew them because, like I said, it's a lot. Like, look how much shorter. It's almost 3/4 of an inch shorter
That's
on the
why
inside.
holes are so much closer together.
I know, but I'm still afraid that it's not gonna.
Count the holes.
Did you count the holes?
No. I didn't.
Okay.
But I put as many
We'll
in
count the
as they
holes.
had on the pattern.
We'll say that this was a. See, I told you we were gonna do a vlog. Anyways, Denny will get caught up here, and then he's gonna recut the face because he cut the face in half when he originally
William said when you add the zippers.
cut the pattern. Oh,
Not. Sorry, Dean.
well,
Dean, for you too. I'd put the zipper in at the same time for
we'll
either.
finish these little hands because I think these are gonna be caught. But I think next time we do this, we'll do the hat and the head, and we'll get that all done.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll sit down and watch the video. It's like an hour and 20 minutes, so it's not like a super short video. So we'll make some notes on maybe some different things.
I'm confused on Lil Fear's question.
Denny, is that nub called a horn or a tree?
Well, I don't know.
Point your parts, Denny. Liz, will you hold that or zoom the camera? I can't see.
You see, we don't have a pencil, do we?
I have a needle.
Okay.
Here, just set it down on that. Set it down on that granite there, and I'll zoom the camera in.
My needle's attached to my leather.
Oh, here, I'll give you your leather back. I got a needle here.
There you are.
All right. First off, we have the horn. This is the horn cap. This part up here, this is the neck of the horn. This is the swell or the fork of the saddle. And by the way, they called it the fork because American Western type saddles are all derived from Mexican charro saddles. And they would take a tree, get the fork of a tree, the tree's growing like
we
this
can't
with
see you.
two,
Hold on.
with the tree has two, a crotch in it.
Oh,
And they would cut that off, turn it upside down, and that would be the swell of their saddle. This would be the horn, this part up here.
okay.
But anyway, that's the swell.
Well,
This
or not the count. Yeah, the swell or the fork.
this is the seat, this part here. This is the cantle. This is the cantle binding, this part. This is the dish in the seat that I was telling you about. This is your seat jockey. This is your back jockey. This is an in-skirt rigging,
Look at that aerial flood advisor.
which is this is what they call a Mother Hubbard skirt, which the back jockey and the seat are all one piece. But this is the back jockey of this saddle. This is the front jockey. This is also the skirt on this saddle because this is all one piece.
Then your saddle strings.
Yeah, then you got your saddle strings, your back conchos.
Let me see. I got.
Generally,
Oh yeah, the fenders are down there. Hang on. Let me see if I got a different picture.
Blockwood said 4 jockeys and a frog walk up to a bar. Walk the block to the bar. Walk the block. Oh, what are you doing?
Oh. There you go. I was measuring how big of a saddle. So that one would be a 15.
yeah, this is the base of the horn. This is where the cantle comes up. The front part of that, the shortest part.
Yeah.
So that would be a 15-inch seat.
There you go.
But you can't measure a gullet with the skirts on it because that's very deceiving.
Yeah.
But if these skirts were off, you would measure the tree right at this point.
Yeah, you just can't get to it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, like when they go to sell them, they'll just hold the tape up there so you can just get close to where you're at, but you just can't see. You can't see the gullet with skirts on there.
Depends on how high up or how low down they mount the skirts. So,
There's a repair that we did on it, Denny.
yes, it is.
All right. Have we saddled it out?
Was that a type of Western saddle?
This
Yes.
is a Western style. This is a Circle Y. It's made in what? Yoakum, Texas
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah.
What?
There's a lot of difference.
Why is it called a Mother Hubbard?
I don't know. I don't know where they got that name, but
That's a funny
the
name.
Pony Express saddles were all Mother Hubbard skirts. The Pony Express saddles, the seat and the saddlebag were all one piece that you could take off.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Pony Express riders skidded to a stop at the Pony Express station, they would jump off and grab that seat and saddlebags and take with them to their fresh horse and throw it on there, and away they went.
Huh.
And away they went.
And now we've gone full circle on the video today.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
Pony Express people, they got some crazy stories
Oh yeah.
about that era of transporting mail.
But anyway, I mean, the Mother Hubbard skirt, I don't know where they got the name for it, but
Have you ever built a Mother Hubbard?
I built several.
Is
They're
it-
actually, it's probably the best type of actual ride that you can get because it's a lot narrower. It's not as bulky.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's one piece.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
But-
like it looks like you have everything, and then you like cut a slit where it comes up the back, and then you push it down to
Yeah.
create the difference.
Yeah.
That actually does seem a lot simpler.
It's the most difficult to fit,
Uh-huh.
but it's also the nicest to ride.
Very interesting. Denny approve. It's a Denny approve stamp on the Mother Hubbard.
Yeah.
That's just something fun to say.
Well, there we go.
And away we went.
And away we went.
We went.
All right, guys. On Friday, Denny will be tooling. This is your last 2 days to enter our contest for the Voyager backpack, which I'm going to grab for your visual pleasure because this is also a really nice bag. So, We reached 50,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is awesome, but YouTube doesn't think that it's as amazing as we do. So we're going to build our own leather play button because we are awesome. Or really, Denny is. Really, this is the Denny show. So, in any case, go comment on something. All you guys that are commenting, you're already entered. If you are just out there just listening, go comment on something on YouTube. We will enter you for a chance to win this backpack. The drawing will be on Friday. Denny will be tooling our leather play button. He's already got it 3/4 of the way tooled, so we have a quarter left to tool. I saw it yesterday when I was over there.
I also altered a little bit on that too.
Oh.
Tony and I had a discussion this morning.
Oh, goodness.
We got
Tony has
great
opinions.
plans. We've got great plans.
You know, the leather play button was all my idea, and I'm not even going to be here on Friday.
I hope Justin's here on Friday. Justin, feel better if you're out there. In any case, so go comment on something, enter for a chance to win this, and then come hang out with us on Friday with Denny Tools, and we can talk about, how about you send in some ideas? What do you want Denny to talk about? He's got good stories. He's got a lot of information in there. So let's pick his brain. It's going to be great. Alrighty, guys. Thank you for joining us. Oh, if you want to stick around on Twitch, we're going to show you the really cool cowhide rugs that we got in for next Tuesday's all-day live shopping sale. So
Look at these.
Tony and I special ordered some rugs, which we have out on the table, and they are freaking awesome.
They are.
So go join us on Twitch for a little bit of an after party as we show you the rugs. We've got another like 35 rugs over here that we'll be selling. So we're getting started on setting up for that. It's going to be an awesome day. You guys can come join us. I'm going to make cheese dip. You should come in on Tuesday I'm going to make Kevin's new cheese dip. We'll send out with all the orders. We'll send out a copy of Kevin's cheese dip so you guys can also make it. It's delicious.
Put some in an envelope and send it.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. That would be awful. We don't need cheesy leather. All right, guys. Have a great afternoon. Bye.
See ya.